If you want to get in on Q&As and this podcast and QnA Wednesdays on my YouTube channel, here's what you got to do. Go to the link that's on one of these sides here with youtube.com/Taeler Hendrix. Subscribe, hit the thumbs up button on the latest episode of QnA Wednesday on my YouTube channel, and then go into the comment section below the video and type in your question for your chance to be featured. And not only will you get to be on my podcast, you'll also get to be featured on my YouTube channel with your questions. So super fun. Definitely check that out. Today, not only do we have a QnA Wednesday, but we've also got a movie calendar update, which is going to take us from now in February through April. We've also got a Fun Fact Friday, which, in case you guys don't know, I host Fun Fact Friday on my YouTube channel and also here on my podcast, where I kind of discuss, you know, how I would put it, I call them fun facts because I share things that I learned, but I also do historical stories to where I discuss things that I think are applicable from history that we can learn from and apply to today. So that's kind of why it's a fun fact. And then, of course, we've got some motivation to carry you through the week. Today is going to be kind of a shorter episode because I've got some really bad news about a family member. So I am kind of not really in my element today, and I'm kind of just, you know, having just a rough day. I'm like playing with my hair because I'm just very distracted and just, it's not a great day. So without any further ado, we're going to dive into this week's episode, and definitely stay tuned for next week where I'm just kind of feeling more, you know, my Taeler Hendrix self, basically. All right, so first things first, we are going to start off with a Q&A. Someone on my YouTube channel asked me about my thoughts about intergender wrestling. So we're just going to get this one out of the way really quick here. I have done some intergenders, but I am not a fan of intergender wrestling. I'm not the biggest fan of it, honestly. I think a lot of women fought really hard for us to have women's divisions. I don't feel the need to go and invade a men's division and be a woman in a men's division. Like, I just don't feel the need for that. But obviously there's a very big market for it, but I think there's a reason why there's a very big market for it, if you know what I'm saying. You know, for me, I think I'm not offended by being called a women's wrestler or a female athlete. There are some women out there that are offended by that. I never understood that. To me, it's just a fact. I'm a female and I'm a professional athlete. I am lucky to, you know, make a living doing something that I loved and dreamed about since I was a kid. Like, I don't think that that's an insult, but some women have, and I just was never one of those people. Yes, I am a wrestler, but I am also a female. So I'm a female wrestler. I'm a professional wrestler who happens to be a female. So I never really understood that whole debate, honestly. I never subscribed to that. I personally do not care for intergender wrestling. I think that if you saw on the street what an intergender match is in wrestling, you know, there would be a completely different reaction to that. And, you know, I think sometimes there's so much I could say on this that would, you know, so we're just going to skip this. I am not the biggest fan of intergender wrestling. Yes, I have participated several times, but it's not something I'm ever looking to do ever again. I don't judge anybody that is into that, but it's just not my thing. I don't like it. And so to each their own. I'm not here to, you know, police anybody. Another person asked me, what is some of my advice for loneliness? Since it's basically, they were talking about how, you know, it's, you know, Valentine's Day, it's the month of love and all of that. My first thing is, you know, a lot of the people that you're probably comparing your loneliness to on social media, it's fake. That would be the first thing that I would say. It is fake, okay? And if you don't have anybody to spend Valentine's Day with, that should be okay, because it is fake. You know what I'm saying? Like, show people that you love them regardless of if there's a holiday of love. You know, it's like, buy people flowers while they're still around to enjoy them instead of at their funeral. It's kind of like a similar concept, okay? For me, you should learn to be loving yourself before you can learn to love anybody else, okay? You have to learn to understand yourself and love yourself and enjoy being yourself alone. Once you can enjoy being yourself alone, that's when you can start, I think, reaching out and trying to find your significant other. And you would be surprised, a lot of times you'll meet the right kind of person when you're not even looking. You know, it's in society, there's so much pressures and so much double standards that are just not in my wheelhouse, I guess I would say. I don't really subscribe to them. You know, I think, you know, it's not just women that should receive gifts for Valentine's Day. I think men should too. You know what I mean? I think there should be, you know, an effort on both sides to that. And I think that you should learn how to enjoy your own company instead of focusing on that loneliness. But at the same time, it's okay to be lonely. It happens to everybody. But it's what you do with that loneliness that varies from person to person, okay? You know, sometimes I can feel lonely just missing people that have passed on that I don't get to, you know, see anymore. You know, or a lot of times when we're lonely, that loneliness turns into despair and depression and anxiety, because then we start going down that rabbit hole, right? You know, we start looking on social media and seeing all of these happy couples and with all the rom-coms are out. It's just so easy to access stuff that we know is going to make us unhappy. But what I have learned in my short life so far is that the couples that post the most on social media are often the most toxic ones and the most that are unhappy, and they end up in breakups. I mean, marriages today, I think it's like 80-something% end in divorce. So put it into perspective when you're feeling lonely, and treat yourself during the month of love. Like, what's wrong with loving yourself? You know what I mean? I truly do think that we need to love ourselves before we can understand how to love anybody else, because if we can't even understand how we need to be loved, how can we expect somebody else to love us in the way that we need, right? Everybody has a love language. So that's what I would say, is do things that make you happy. Like, sometimes I like watching horror movies on Valentine's Day. Like, that's my jam, you know? I'm not a huge fan of chocolate, but, you know, I do love, like, Reese's and stuff like that, because the chocolate's, like, mixed with other stuff. So I don't know. Just to me, you know, Valentine's Day, it's cool and it's great, but it's not something that should make you depressed. It's, you know, a commercial holiday. Yeah, it's romantic, and yeah, it would be great, but everything is a give and take. And so, you know, if you're just going to be with someone just so you're not lonely on Valentine's Day, I think it says more about you. And maybe there's some work that you've got to do so then you can feel good about you. And I think that you deserve to feel good about you, right? Like, I want that for you. Another person asked me on my YouTube channel, what are some really special moments from matches for me? Okay. Obviously, my first ever match, which was actually a mixed tag match, and the girl, I don't remember the two guys, but the girl was Luscious Latasha. She was like my first legit like match that I was in. I'll never forget that. I actually found some photos of that the other day when I was going through a lot of my belongings, so that was really, really fun. Shout out to Luscious Latasha. She never beat me up in the ring. Like, she was always like super kind, super nice to me. So when I started to get more notoriety in wrestling, and if there was ever an opportunity for me to wrestle with her, I would always be like, give me more of your shizit, give me more of your shizit. I want to take your moves. Like, I want to make you look good. Like, not that she couldn't make herself look good, but she's a very kind and soft person. And not soft in a bad way. I mean, soft-spoken, like, she's so nice, you know? And I think she has a lot to offer a lot of people. And I don't necessarily think that she always gets that opportunity. So whenever I would wrestle, I'd be like, I want to take a lot of your stuff. Like, give it to me, you know? It was basically kind of the same vibe that Sumi Sakai would give me. And I kind of wanted to pass that on because Sumi was always great to me. She would always want to take all kinds of moves from me. And she was always telling me, like, Taylor, let's put more of your stuff in there. Let people see who you are. And she was one of the few people to be like that with me, so I wanted to do that for Luscious Latasha as well. Another match moment of mine would be my gut check match. You know, I was the first girl featured for gut check. I was also the first gut check contestant to have everything completely live. The first gut check was completely taped. The second gut check, the match was taped, then the promo was live, and then my match was live and my promo was live, and we had a commercial break in our segment. So that's a lot of pressure, you know, for someone who's green. And I remember just like people actually chanting my name, and you know, in the impact zone, and I just thought it was just so crazy and unexpected, because here I am, this nobody from Massachusetts in a city that most people haven't even heard of, and they're chanting my name. Like, I was so proud. I was so incredibly proud. Another big moment was when I won my first ever title, which was at OVW in 2011. I was almost 8 years in at the time, and I had never won a championship. Like, certain companies had promised, but they never actually like gave me a belt. And so that was the first belt I had ever won in my career, and it really put me on the map. It was one of the best moves that I had ever made in wrestling, was going to Ohio Valley Wrestling wrestling. And I got to win that belt from a former knockout, and like so many amazing women have held that belt, like Beth Phoenix and Katarina and, you know, Mickey James, and like just so many amazing people, so many amazing women. Another really awesome moment for me was getting to be the main event on OVW TV. That was a huge deal because women had not been the main event for OVW TV since a ladder match between Beth Phoenix and Katie Lee Burchill for the OVW women's title. And so I felt like I had a lot to prove, because not only were we getting that opportunity, you know, so many years later, I mean, we weren't even a WWE developmental anymore. That's how long it had been, right? And then we're in a 4-way ladder match, so that's already a lot of pressure. And I was the only girl that was released from their Impact contract in that match at that time, so I felt like I had so much to prove. And it was really cool because Don Callis was there, I think it was him, and Christy Hemme, and she was like, oh my god, I didn't even know you were a heel. Oh my gosh, like, and like her and I were just talking backstage, and she gave me such great feedback, and it was one of the best conversations I'd ever had with her, and it was just such an eye-opener for me. Another really amazing moment was getting just, you know, all this approval from WWE Talent Scouts when I had an extras match, and I saw the Bellows were up in the stands, and I saw that Dolph Ziggler and Naomi and some other people were watching, and I got the best feedback out of all the extras that day from my match, and I wrestled twice, and the second match where I got all the best feedback out of everybody was on the fly with a girl that had never had a match before. So that's a really cool story that I'll never forget. Another really awesome moment was getting a standing ovation at Queens of Combat after I was in this really intense match with Su Yung, and I lost the belt, and I'm covered in like her red like dye, and so it looks like I'm bleeding from like head to toe. She wanted me to do like all this crazy stuff to her, like power bomb her into this like pillar, like she called that spot. Somebody posted on Instagram the other day, Sue called for that spot. So that was really cool. I had like never had like an actual standing ovation before, and I wasn't going to come out because I was covered in red. I looked like a reject out of Avatar. Like I was red, I was like the wrong color, everybody's supposed to be blue. And then like somebody came to the back and was like, yo, there's like a huge line, they all want to see you, Sue is telling you to go out there. And it was just really, really cool. And getting to win both the Queens of Combat Women's Championship and the tag team titles was so cool. I had no idea about any of that in advance, so that was just so cool. I didn't find out until I was at the venue that day, and getting to work with Chelsea Green for that was really, really cool. I wish we got to do more. Oh man, being one of the first main events for Women of Honor was amazing, and doing this no DQ match with Mandy was so awesome, guys, because I remember talking about this. I was like, yo, the EC, like Philly is legit. Like they will call you out if you don't know how to wrestle. Like they're savage, and it's awesome, right? So I was like, Mandy, we gotta bring it. Like it's Philly, and of course she's been in Ring of Honor for next to forever, so she also knows that you really have to bring it when it comes to, you know, the ECW arena. Like it's called the ECW arena, right? And I just remember this chant, "You sick F word, you sick," and it was directed at me, and I was so proud. I was so proud, which sounds hilarious because like that doesn't sound like a very nice thing to be chanted at. But I remember being so proud. I was like, holy crap, like at the ECW arena, I got people chanting that because of me. I was like, that is amazing. Like, yes, I am a sick, you know, in that moment. And that was just so amazing. And getting to like, just put that whole thing together and seen that come to fruition, that was like a big deal, and that meant so much to Mandy and myself. And we were both injured going into that no DQ match, and I just remember us wanting to take care of each other. And I think somebody ribbed us and played a joke on us because every spot that they told us was going to be where the equipment that we needed for this, that, and the other spot were not there. So when you see us eating away at time looking for things, that's because we were legit having to look for them because they weren't put in the spots that we were told that they would be. And like I remember I was like, don't worry, I'm not gonna hang you for real. We're gonna do this. And I did. I took care of her with that, and she sold it like $1 million bucks. And I remember we both wanted to actually bleed for that match, and we were not allowed to. There was like a huge scandal about that weekend. And so somebody went to like a magic shop or whatever and got us these little things. And I just remember being so disappointed because she had to spit it at me. and there wasn't a whole lot, and that's one of the reasons why I rubbed it on my face. I really wanted you guys to see that. And then I remember I was not going to let her get hurt even more than what she already was prior to that match. And so I made sure I took care of her on that tombstone on the stairs. And if you go back and watch that footage, you see people reacting to that like, oh, yeah, that was one of the best moments ever. And then just getting to be a backstage person with Lucha Patron, and, you know, getting to help a lot of the men on the roster really just elevate their characters and their television presentation, and seeing them use that in other places to get themselves, you know, they've been now on AEW Dark and on Impact and WWE and stuff. It's just really, really cool to kind of be giving all the stuff I've learned to other people, in a sense. Like, I would totally love to run seminars. I think that would be so cool. So immediately, those are some of the stuff that comes to mind. Okay, moving on. Are there some trends that you hate? Yes. The first thing that comes to my mind on trends that I absolutely hate are people giving financial advice that is actually terrible. Like, right now, I don't know if you've heard this, but I've heard all over, I've seen it on social media so many times with people talking about like fractional investing, where you can, for example, you can get like 1/8 of Tesla, right? And so you own 1/8 of one share of Tesla. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Why don't you just wait until you can afford Tesla? Or why don't you invest in other stocks that pay dividends until you can actually afford the share of Tesla? Like, why would you want to own 1/8 of one share? Like, it's so stupid. Oh, I can't stand it. Another trend is this whole girls recording men at the gym thing. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. 90% of those videos, it's like, really? Really? And then you wonder why men don't want to help women. Like, I just can't stand it. Cannot stand it. Like, it's just so utterly ridiculous. Guys, I'm so sorry. Like, moving on. What is some of your favorite things about working with animals? I adore animals. I am an animal person. I think one of my favorite things about animals is that they're so unconditional with their love. Like, they don't care what you look like. They don't care how much money you make. They don't care who you're friends with. They don't care how much money you have in the bank. They don't care, you know, they just want you. They just love you no matter what. Like, man, I just wish they lived so much longer, because animals are so special. They just love you. They just want your time. They are just so unconditional. And to me, that's so special. And you won't find that with most people. So that would probably be one of my favorite things about animals. Like, I just love getting to work with animals and just seeing them open up after, you know, the fact that they were abused or whatever, because I work with animals to help rehabilitate them and foster them so they can be adopted and stuff. That's how I ended up with Scooby-Doo, which, if you've been a fan of mine for a while, you know, I'll mention her every so often because she's absolutely adorbs. Advice to stay-at-home moms. Okay, this one, I hope I don't trigger anyone. Stay-at-home moms. Do not let anybody ugly your beauty of being a stay-at-home mom. Okay, you are raising the future. That is amazing. What a responsibility that is, okay? Don't worry about, I call them the other F word, you know, feminist. Don't let a feminist, you know, guilt you into thinking you're somehow less than because you are a stay-at-home mom. You are raising the future. You are providing something to your family that no one else can do, okay? Gosh, it's just so amazing. So don't let anybody try to ugly that, because a lot of times they're the first people to turn on other women, and they'll give you all of this malarkey and BS, and just don't buy into it. You are special. And if you are in a position where you can be a stay-at-home mom, that is amazing. I am sure that your significant other appreciates that more than you know, because no one is going to love your children the way you do, okay? No one is going to love your family the way that you do, and no one's going to look after your family the way that you do, okay? And to me, that's just so special. I'm coming from as a person, as a woman, as a former teacher, as a female in a professional athlete realm. Like, it is so special, okay? Do not ever, like, stop and think that you are somehow less than. Now, if you think that maybe you need a little bit more purpose or something, don't consider it as a lack of purpose. Just consider it as you want some other things to do as well. You know, multitasking, you know, women do that a lot, okay? So do men, and nowadays everybody does. They have to, right? just don't let anyone sully that amazingness, because you are a superhero. You are savage. You are awesome. You are loyal. You are incredible. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you are doing something that a lot of people wish that they could do, but they are not in a position to do. Don't take that for granted, but also don't let someone knock you down for it either. You know, a lot of times I find that people don't punch down like people like to say that they do. No, they punch up. They give European uppercuts, and that comes from below. You know what I'm saying? Nobody on your level or doing better than you has time to hate on you, okay? So pay attention to where that hate is coming from. And the other thing that I would say, besides don't let anyone sully that amazing opportunity, is don't forget about you. And do not forget about your marriage. If you are married, do not forget about your partner. And do not forget about yourself. Because as a stay-at-home mom, you're not just a mom. You're not just a wife. You are someone's daughter. You are a person. You are a woman. Okay? And you are also a mom and a wife. So take some time for you so you don't go insane. All right? And so you can remember who you are. And taking stock of that and remembering who you are also helps you to be a better wife, a better person, and a better parent. And also taking a little bit of time for oneself often prevents burnout and breakdowns. And also my advice would be, do not forget about your relationship, because if you did the parenting thing right, then eventually your children will grow up and go out into the world and leave the nest and become productive, fruitful members of society. If you did your job right, that's what will happen. And then what are you left with now? The relationship that you neglected. Okay, and that's a big problem. I saw that a lot as a teacher, and I experienced that as a child. So I would say, don't, like, also make time for you and your significant other. Okay, make that time to have meaningful date nights, not routine. Routine is the death of marriages a lot of the times, because it gets boring and you take it for granted. Make time for each other and time for yourself, even if it's a 30-minute bubble bath, like with a glass of wine, whatever, or getting your hair done once a month, whatever it is. It doesn't have to break the bank. It doesn't have to be expensive. It could be 15 minutes. It could be an hour. You go to a yoga class or whatever that looks like for you. Take a tiny bit of time for you, as well as your kids and your relationship, because it's a partnership. It's a business transaction. It's a love connection. It's you have to, what you feed grows and what you starve dies. Okay. And a lot of people make the mistake of, oh, I would die for my kids. That's wonderful. That's great. That's admirable. That's amazing. That is loyalty and dedication. But what about the flip side? Why don't you try living for your child as well? And that also comes with loving yourself and being the best version of yourself, so you can show up in the best way possible for yourself, for your kids, and for your relationship. That's my advice for stay-at-home moms. All right, everyone, this has been the latest Q&A, so make sure you go over to my YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the thumbs up on the latest QnA Wednesday video, and comment below on that video with your question for your chance to be featured.